Welcome to Freedom Pharma, the Freedom Pharma channel, and I'm going to lean back a bit so you can see what Freedom Pharma is, and it's Freedom Pharma spelt with an F. Reason we do that is we're talking about basically medical freedom, but reason we use a F for pharma instead of PH is because the products that we suggest as alternatives actually come from a farm, and so that's hence the name Freedom Pharma. You can find us at freedompharma.com, and you can check us out on our channels are on YouTube and Rumble. Anyway, so today I want to talk about one of the things you can see, by the way, I'm moving around a little bit. I'm on a stationary bike, and part of having some medical freedom is being in somewhat good shape yourself. In other words, you've got to advocate for yourself as far as trying to be in good condition. If you're overweight and things like that and don't get any exercise, your chances of getting sick actually go up, quite a bit. And so, so I like to combine doing a video for Freedom Pharma while getting some exercise, which is kind of nice. But today, my topic is going to be a little experience of my own over many years that was basically, goes along with the Freedom Pharma idea. I played rugby for 39 consecutive years. I didn't start till I was 25, so I played for a long time. But one thing about rugby, I don't know if you're familiar with it all, but you do a lot of running. I played out in the backs primarily, or loose forwards. But, I'd be up running on my toes a lot because, the whole idea is running with speed. Anyway, one day I'm out at a game and going like crazy, and I don't know, the ball comes out in rugby. I don't know if you've seen how it works. You advance the ball by really passing it behind you a little bit, and the whole line moves up together. And I'm out on the wing, and I'm going as fast as I can, waiting for the ball to come to me. It finally does get to me, which is great. And I'm up on my toes going as fast as I can. And back in those days, I was actually pretty quick, so the thought of anybody catching up from behind me probably wasn't likely. But all of a sudden, it felt like somebody had actually caught up behind me and kicked me right in the back of the leg, right in the back, just above my heel. And I didn't think anything about it. One thing about it, what happened is I fell in a heap straight on my face with the ball, and so that was the end of that play. But very funny because I never taped my ankles in rugby, except for this one game. For whatever reason, we had somebody there that was, practicing doing ankle taping and that, and so. Matter of fact, when I played football forever, I always taped ankles, but in this case, never did. But I had it taped at this one time. So anyway, ball, because I dropped it as I'm falling on my face. By the way, when I get up, I look around thinking, who the heck kicked me in the back of the leg? There's nobody for 20 yards. So obviously something's wrong here, but hurt like crazy. But then it didn't hurt, hurt like crazy to start with, but nothing. So anyway, now we have a scrum. Familiar with a scrum, but basically the two teams push together like that. At this time, I was playing in the scrum, but on the outside of it. And basically what you do is you're leaning quite ways forward, basically stretching your Achilles is what you'd be doing. Anyway, as the scrum's going on, I'm looking down. I basically hobbled over to it after getting, kicked as I thought in the back of the leg. And now I'm looking down as I'm doing the scrum, and all of a sudden my toes on my left foot are virtually up to my shin. I'm thinking, time out. There's something wrong here. So anyway, that shouldn't happen. Anyway, I hobble off, and funny enough, we had a doctor that played with us, and basically he said, I think you've ruptured your Achilles. What do I know about rupturing Achilles? Anyway, and he had a little thing you could do. You squeeze your calf muscle, and it's like a reflex thing. Your foot's supposed to move if your Achilles is still attached, which it didn't move. So anyway, we figured that was the problem. So I go and, I can't go back into play. But, the pain's gone for the time being, which is nice. But I decide I'm going to go and get it checked out. But in the meantime, I go home. It was a Saturday game, so Saturday afternoon, I get cleaned up. I'm supposed to be going out for dinner with another couple. And anyway, I get all cleaned up. I meet my wife and the other two at the restaurant I was going to go to, and I'm walking flat-footed because with a ruptured Achilles, you really can't lean forward; you'll fall over. Anyway, but I tell them I'm going to go to to the emergency ward and see what's going on. And so I get there, and it's a Saturday night. And in the downtown hospital where I was, Saturday nights are at the emergency ward are pretty crazy. And so anyway, about 11 o'clock at night, a nurse finally comes to me and says, okay, you're next. We're going to, put you in for surgery. The guys will be finished in another hour. They've been working on somebody for the last 8 or 10 hours because whoever it was they were working on surgically had some major problems. Anyway, and I'm sort of thinking, man, these guys have been working all this time on somebody else. Now they're going to do my Achilles. I don't think so. Anyway, asked her, I said, be all okay if I come back in the morning, Sunday morning, She said, yeah, that's fine. Just don't eat. You're not allowed to eat before surgery. Anyway, next morning I show up and it's quiet. The emergency room is totally quiet. And I think, well, this is fantastic. Anyway, in the meantime, now I can meet with the doctor who is going to do the surgery because there's nothing there anyway. So he comes out, he's got his intern or assistant that's with him. He's also got the cast guy. And funny enough, I played rugby a lot and broke a bunch of stuff. And I sort of knew the cast guy. So now I can get a little bit of a briefing on what I'm going to go through. And the guy says to me, the doctor says, well, you don't necessarily need to have the surgery. And I'm thinking, how could you not have the surgery? If you think about your Achilles, it's a tendon that runs down up from your heel and sort of attaches into the back of your knee. And you could literally feel that there was nothing there. You could feel the two ends. And so I'm thinking, well, how could it ever heal itself without the surgery? Well, apparently it can. There's a sheath that the tendon is in. And it literally, if you put your foot in the right direction, it will grow back, on its own. Anyway, so I'm thinking, so what evidence for or against having the surgery? And doctor said, well, they had a study done in Scandinavia. And I'm thinking Scandinavia. And by the way, I've had a lot of statistics in my day. And first of all, not many people in those Nordic countries. And how many ruptured Achilles did they have to actually do the study with? And he said, well, and what they found, whatever the study was if you have the surgery, your chance of recurrence, in other words, breaking it again, are 4% less than if you don't have the surgery. And I'm thinking 4%, that's hardly anything. I mean, it's, within the limitations of error on that part. So I sort of thought, well, that's not much. So I'm trying to make up my mind, and then I turned to the cast guy, who was the guy that I sort of knew. So there's the three of them, there. And I said, what do you think? He said, well, I put casts on either way, which they do. They're going to put a cast on after surgery or cast on without surgery. And he said, and none of them come back. I said, oh, forget the surgery. Anyway, that was great. But anyway, in the meantime, I asked the doctor, I said, why do you think I ruptured my Achilles? I didn't do anything to it. It just all of a sudden snapped. He said, you've got tight tendons. He said, quite likely you'll break the other one. Great. Anyway, so I go on with my way. I get the cast on. Everything's fine. Heals up perfectly. And anyway, I'm thinking, man, this is pretty neat. You don't need to have surgery automatically. And this doctor, luckily for me, because of this little break I had between the Saturday night and the Sunday, gave me a chance to at least have a look at it, which most people wouldn't have that opportunity. Anyway, so I go on with my life. I keep playing rugby. I'm sure about 10 years later, same thing. I'm not kidding you, I'm out doing exact same thing. Running, top of on my toes. Next thing, wham, I'm flat in my face. And thinking, and I knew exactly because I'd been through it once before. What had happened? Ruptured Achilles. So of course, now I'm going to go to the emergency ward because I got to get a cast put on, nothing else. Anyway, I go into the emergency there, and the doctor sees me and says, okay, we'll schedule you for surgery tomorrow. And I said, no, I'm not having surgery. He said, what do you mean you're not having surgery? And here's where I'm sort of suggesting you have to advocate for yourself. Because, if the doctor had his way in the second one, I would have been, obviously, without any thought about it, I would have been having the surgery. Because he wasn't telling me about the option. As a matter of fact, not like the first guy 10 years earlier. Anyway, so I say, no, I'm not going to have the surgery. I just want a cast. And he said, well, you're only the second person I've ever had come in with a ruptured Achilles that has said they're not going to have the surgery. He was sort of indignant about it. He was, I'm questioning his authority. And I said, well, no, that's not really true. As a matter of fact, I'm the third. And he didn't know that I ruptured the other one previously. And so, and it was the other one. So in other words, the first one didn't recur. It was my other side. And so, of course, I didn't have the surgery. I had a cast on. Everything's fine. In the meantime, during this period, I remember, I think it was Lawrence Taylor. He played for the linebacker for the New York Giants. And he had a ruptured Achilles. right near the end of his career, and he was thinking of probably retiring. And I'm thinking, I got to get a hold of him and tell him you don't need the surgery, because who knows if anybody told him that was actually the case. Anyway, fast forward probably another 20 odd years, and I've run into a few people who've actually ruptured their Achilles. And I said, oh, did you have the surgery? He said, what surgery? They don't even offer it now. So in other words, something that was standard medical practice back 30 some years ago, which means you'd have the surgery, is now, he said you'd have to beg them to have the surgery now. Well, that's kind of neat. So anyway, I like to think I had some kind of influence on, the changing of that medical procedure. So anyway, that's just one of the things that you got to think about. Matter of fact, some of the people who had that surgery back in the day that I knew about had some major problems. I mean, first of all, you're going to go in and do an incision on the back of your leg, pull those two ends together, stow them all up, and then put a cast over top. Well, think of the potential for infection. And I knew of one guy who ended up virtually almost dying because that infection, he got that incision got infected, and he had a cast over it. They didn't know. Man, I'm telling you, he was on a PICC line, which is pumping antibiotics directly into your heart for quite a while. So anyway, always advocate for yourself. There might be a better way. Think about it. Maybe get a second opinion. I like I said, I'm kind of happy that I had the opportunity on the first one, and certainly because of my own knowledge on the second time, I made up my own decisions. And now it's nice to hear that they're not even offering the surgery anymore, probably in most cases. Anyway, freedompharma.com if you want to check out our website. And like I said, you can check out our channels on both YouTube and Rumble, and that's just Freedom Pharma, all one word, spelled with an F. And we'd sure like to help have your support if you want to check us out from the point of view of, subscribe, like, share, those kind of things. But the other thing we have, if you go to Freedom Pharma, you'll see there's actually a product that we have, which is actually an oral dose natural antibody that you can take every day, which gives your body extra antibody, really, on a daily basis to help your immune system better take care of you. And, I think that's something you can do also to help support us. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening. I look forward to, doing more of these sweaty videos, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.